Hello, I'm Janet Martin. I'm Director of Public Relations here at Calhoun Community College, and thank you for joining us here at Calhoun Education Television. We are so excited to have this rare opportunity to talk to our boss for the system, Dr. Freida Hill. She is a Chancellor of the two-year college system here in the state of Alabama, and she visited the campus recently and toured the campus and talked to our faculty and staff. And so, Dr. Hill, first of all, thanks so much for coming and being back at Calhoun, because we were talking, and you've actually been here to the city and to the campus several times, but never really got a chance to see who we are.
That's true. I have been here for several meetings, and it was usually a run-in, run-out, so it's never official to me until I actually tour. And
so now we're official.
You're officially toured. That's right.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
But as a lot of people in this area know, because you have visited this area quite frequently, and we are certainly delighted to again have you back. But you've been Chancellor of our system just a little over a year now. And so for people that don't know a lot about who you might be and kind of what attracted you to the state of Alabama, tell us a little bit about your background and then what brought you to the state of Alabama, and more importantly, to be the Chancellor of our system.
Well, thank you. I brag a lot about being a community college graduate, and I think that's very important. And I grew up in education. I was a non-traditional student. I didn't start college until I worked for 4 years. I've done a lot of different things in my career. I was a college president for 5 years, which I love. I told the faculty and staff this morning that is the best job ever on a campus, but somehow they lured me to the system office in Georgia, where I was an assistant commissioner and then deputy commissioner. They call him commissioner rather than chancellor. But I've also been a vice president for economic development, working with business and industry to offer programs for them, particularly customized programs. I was over adult education, which is another real passion of mine. But I had gotten to the point where I wanted to do something different, and I actually started looking at going somewhere else to be a college president, because that was what I loved. And then I saw the announcement about the Chancellor for Alabama, and I thought, you know, what a great way to, I would say, end my career, because this is where I will end my career, I think.
Well, we hope you're not ending it anytime soon.
No, not anytime soon. I still have a lot of energy, a lot left in me. But in fact, they asked me that question, why this job and why Alabama? This job, because I think it would be the pinnacle of a career in education to be a chancellor and to lead a system. Alabama, I'm just a Southern girl, and I was
from
not
the state of Tennessee, I might add.
Yes, and I was not going to go to Michigan or Idaho or somewhere like that. I wanted to stay in the Southeast, so it was a great opportunity for me, and I'm so glad I was chosen. I feel very honored to be the chancellor.
And you know, a very unique thing is you're talking about all the things you've done in your career, and you actually also worked in public relations and marketing, which I'm excited about.
Right.
But you really you've had direct experience with everything we do. Like you said, everything from being a faculty member to working in marketing and PR to working in adult education to working in business and industry training, which is everything that we are.
It is.
And so you've learned by fire what it's all about to work in community college.
Learn by doing. You know, I told you I'd been a secretary at one time, so I know what's required for a lot of positions. And as I told the faculty and staff, it's hard to pull the wool over my eyes too. But I've enjoyed that. It's a progression for me. It's actually been a process, and I'm a very curious learner. So I like to do new and different things, and I like to see results. I'm very results oriented, so I think I'm in the right place at the right time.
And, you know, there might be people too that say, you know, while the Alabama community college system is a large system, and obviously we have literally hundreds of thousands of students, you came in our system at a time when, you know, we were suffering from a little bit of negative PR for the system. And so you probably had friends and colleagues that said, are you sure you want to go to Alabama now?
Well, I did have a couple that asked me if I had fallen off the truck on my head. But, you know, I don't turn my back on a challenge. But, you know, as I did my research, what I found was, and since I've been in the system, you know, the negative publicity that we had was the cause of a few people, a few campuses. What I've learned in my travels of all these great colleges is we have wonderfully dedicated faculty and staff
Yes.
and administrators on our campuses. So that was, I think, isolated but very exposed. So it's my mission now to make sure that everyone knows the many, many great things that are going on our campuses. And I heard this morning after my talk with the faculty and staff, Dr. Beck asked what events are going on, and I was so excited.
And
to
that was
hear.
just a few.
That
of
was
them.
just a few.
Yeah.
And as I walked through the campus and through the buildings, and I see all the many things that are happening, and my goodness, I think of the number of students. The student that spoke this morning said, you know, your enrollment is 11,904. That's ingrained in me now.
That's right.
That's huge, and at a time when the budget is going down, and we've had over 20% proration in the last 2 years, yet our colleges continue to embrace what their mission is, open access and helping students be successful. So we're doing so many great things on our campus.
And you know, the interesting thing about you saying that is that, and I would venture to guess that all the colleges that you visited and the ones even that you haven't visited would tell you the same thing, that within our local communities, we never really suffered a lot from the negative PR, thank goodness, because our communities know who we are,
Right.
and they love us and
Right.
they embrace
I
us.
agree.
It was just, you know, when you look at the system as a whole, and I think there was a lot of miscommunication and misinformation out there as well. But
And you're so right about that community, and I say it's a symbiotic relationship, because I feel like the colleges anchor the community, and they give so much to the community, not only in the students that they prepare to go to work there, but their involvement in everything from the chambers to anything else that's going on in the community. And at the same time, the community gives back to the colleges.
Exactly.
As I've traveled around and spoken, one of the questions I've started to ask, and it really gets people thinking, what would this community be if you didn't have Calhoun Community College?
what a good question.
Think about what would the community be like if you didn't have this college sitting right here. And we know that for so many of our students, this is the only opportunity that they have to get a higher education experience. So we're so critically important, not just to the community, but to the state as a whole. As I've spoken with Governor Bentley, his emphasis is on creating jobs. And I said,
Right.
Governor, when you create all of those jobs, we're going to have qualified people to step into them.
Exactly, which it obviously just even more so confirms that what we're doing is good for the state.
It is
and
right.
good for our students.
That's right.
And speaking about good, you've been here for, again, a very short period of time, a little bit over a year, but what would you say in that year would be maybe your top 5 accomplishments that you're proud of? And obviously I know that there are lots of them, because when you look at just here at Calhoun, and obviously we have 24 or 5 other community colleges around the state, so there's lots of things that you could talk about.
I think probably one of the most critical is holding the budget this past year for this year's budget, not having a big cut. I think that was important, and we spent a lot of time at the State House making sure that we did get a good budget. I mean, it was basically level, but that was pretty good compared to what the economy is right now. But I think when I think about accomplishments, I don't think about what Freida Hill has done. I think about what our colleges have done. That's where the accomplishments are. That's these colleges, these dedicated faculty and staff who have done their work every day, all day, sometimes long days, to make sure that our students are successful. I mean, it's that open access that they're going to help them if they need some developmental classes or they need a little hand holding. The student that spoke this morning verbalized it so well. She's not a number. She's a face and she's a name. So I would multiply all of those times not 5, but 20-some colleges across the state, what they're doing for our students and for their communities. So I think that's the accomplishment. It's not what I've done.
Okay. We've talked a lot about the budget, and obviously you can't pick up a newspaper or turn on the television or turn on the radio and not hear about budget woes, not just in the state of Alabama, but across the country. I was looking at one of the morning shows this morning, one of the national morning shows, and they were talking about the number of states in this country that are having tremendous budget problems, billions of dollars.
Right.
And when you talk about that and you look at the system of education, not just community colleges, but K through 12 as well as the four-year institutions, and obviously something that's going to have to be done about the way that we fund education in this state. And you've worked in other states. And so Are there things that we as a state that you've seen maybe have worked in other states that we could be doing that would at least shore up the way we fund education in the state?
Well, and I know that the legislature is going to be looking at some different ways to build the budget and how they fund. And then when I had my presentation recently, they didn't call it a budget hearing, but it really was. It was about issues is what they called it, but you can't talk about issues without talking about that budget.
Exactly.
And the case that I'm trying to make is because we have an inverse relationship to the economy, so that when the economy is going down and our enrollment's going up, and they'll say, well, we can't give you money because there's no money.
Right.
And when the economy starts to turn then and our enrollment drops, they say, well, we can't give you any money because your enrollment's down. So we never get back that money that we lose in proration. Right. So the case that I'm trying to make with them, however they figure out how to fund us, is we need to be funded when the economy's good, even though our enrollment may be down. Now, I will say this, I don't believe we'll take as deep a cut in enrollment as we have in the past when the economy's come back. Because I think folks are finally realizing the value of a community college, right. Not just in terms of tuition being about half of universities, but the value and the quality of the people on the campus and what we produce, which is our students. That's our product. Right. So as I work with the legislature this year, I want them to understand that. And as I said, I know they're looking at some different ways to fund. We have to get out of this mindset that we spend down every penny. We have to set aside, I believe, when the economy is really good, a big enough rainy day fund, right. So that when we do have the downturn, we don't all suffer so critically. You know, we have some, and I explained this in my presentation, we have some critical things going on our campus. One being, we have to hire a lot of adjunct faculty. Because we can't afford
a huge number here.
Huge number. And that will come back to hurt us, might be harmful to us when we have accreditation reviews. You know, our Commission on Colleges looks unfavorably to have that high ratio of the adjunct to the full-time. Yet we don't really have a choice if we want to continue serving those students who come to our campus. So we're caught in the middle. We've tightened our belt just about as tight as it will go. And so, I just want to make the case that fund us when the economy's good, even though our enrollment might be down some.
Are there systems or are there states that you think might serve as a benchmark or a model for us as this state is looking for a better option to fund education?
You know, I've looked at that, and even the state that I just came from, in Georgia, they haven't done a good job. I mean, they're looking at big cuts. I talked to my former boss, and he said, they've already cut them 4% in this year's budget, and they're looking at whether or not they'll have another cut. Right. So, we were asked by the finance director to calculate what would happen if we had a 3% in this year's, another 3%, and 10% next year. And I simply said, 10% would be devastating to our system. So, I want to work with them any way that I can to come up with something different in how we are funded so that when times are bad, we don't get those cuts. Right. I think it's also time to look at probably this would not be popular with some, but the percentage that we get of the Education Trust Fund money.
That the two-year colleges get?
Yes, yes. The higher ed has been, our percentage has been going down slightly, but even a slight decrease is very impactful. So we have to make the case of what do you want us to be? And I've said this to the governor, I say at every opportunity, we are the ones that will turn the economy of this state. It's right. On our shoulders. Yes. Because we're the ones producing the workers who will fill these positions. One of the things that I've read is that a lot of companies have the money to hire, but they're afraid to. They're afraid of the economy, that it's not quite turned yet, and what the federal government might do going forward. So we have some unique challenges.
And speaking of unique challenges, obviously budget and money is the biggest one that's looming over all of us. But outside of that, what would you say are some of the other challenges that we as a system face? I won't say you face, because we as a system face.
I think one of the challenges that we face, and we're not unlike anyone else in the nation, we have the baby boomers starting to come through. You know, over the next few years, we're going to have a lot of people that retire, and I don't know that we've done all that we should and could do to groom those others coming through to be our next workforce, our next leaders, a workforce on the college level. You know, I have a concern that that we won't have those to step in with the experience. So I'm very big on professional development, although I've already said we're probably not going to have some of the conferences that we normally have because we have to look at the budget. So I'm hoping that presidents, and I know some of them are doing some things on a college or a regional basis where some of the colleges will go together and provide some professional development and make sure that their employees, their next generation leaders, are in some leadership classes that are offered across the state. So
and we've actually done that here at Calhoun and Gadsden State and Hanceville for, I think we did it for 3 years. We kind of alternated. We came together and did professional development. Yeah, and it worked out very well. It got, for one thing, it got us out to the other campuses, and we were able to see and work with some of our colleagues that some of us had only met by phone.
Well, and what a great experience that is. I mean, you're always you're going to learn by that and pull in resources. Y'all are doing another great thing with your EMT to RN, using, you know, working with some other colleges, and that's the kind of thing we'll have to do. I mean, moving forward, because the budget the way it is, we really do have to be innovative, and you know that's a challenge. It's sometimes hard to get out of our comfort zone, so to speak. But I want to make sure that we're grooming people to fill that next leadership role, and I'm very, very pleased with the things that I see going on at Calhoun.
Well, you know, you talk about being innovative and being creative, and I think historically, for whatever reason, community colleges weren't always thought of as being creative and innovative. But again, if you look just around the state, as what's happening in this state, a lot of our colleges are doing wonderful things and serving as national models oftentimes, and that's really how you get those grant dollars, is that, you know, they want to see you do something different that can be replicated at other places. And we talked even this morning about the fact, I think either you or Dr. Beckman mentioned about the fact that, you know, that's sort of kind of how you have to fill the gap these days, is look for those